Welcome to Girlfriends Bible Study, a live Bible study with Connie and friends. Each week, Connie and her girlfriends engage in a lively conversation as they read and study Scripture. So, grab a pen, your journal, and your best friend, and enjoy this enlightening Bible study.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bible Study. Welcome to Bible Study Live with Connie. I'm going to record here, but I welcome you all. I know we may get some drop-in visitors, and if so, I'll welcome them and hide their video real quickly so that you guys can still see me. I don't think it lets me do it until then, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think, well, let's see. I might be able to do it. Nope. No, I have to have another person for it to work. So, all right. So when they come on, I'll fix it. But welcome to Bible Study Live with Connie. I have some posts out there right now. I was sharing with you guys. I have a procedure tomorrow, so I'll be praying and you guys be praying. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's my first time. It's going to be fine. So if you don't know what I'm talking about and you're a friend of mine on Facebook, just look at my post and you'll understand. If not, no worries. Don't worry about it. Just say prayers that I stay in good health. So we'll just keep it that simple. This light is a little bright for my eyes, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. So tonight we are talking about needing proof. Needing proof. And I'm going to give you a few examples in the Bible, and I'm going to give you a few personal examples of some interesting things. And, you know, anytime I'm talking about something, I'm talking to me too. You know, I say that, you know, I'm sharing, and you guys know why I do Bible studies. I learn something from them, or it's the way I read the Bible. I'll read something and I'll think, dang, that applies to my life right now. Or I'll see a story or a video in my head while I'm reading it. And it's just, you know, it comes alive for me. So this needing proof, first of all, what had happened was the story of Gideon has come up, I think, no less than 3 times in the last week or so, last couple of weeks. And it came up again last night. So I said, let me read about Gideon. Let me see, Lord, what are you trying to get me to read? What do you want me to know? What do you want me to hear? And so I read about Gideon, and I'll start with him since he's the one who kept coming up. But then I'm going to also show you some areas in the Bible about other people needing proof and what that looks like. It's so interesting. So we're going to start with Gideon. And in starting with Gideon, we're going to start in Judges. Hopefully I'm not, let me make sure. All right. I put my books down on my computer keyboard. I might turn something off doing that, so I don't want to do that. I've got my glasses here. So here we are. And let's see. So in Judges chapter 6, we're going to start there. And this needing proof thing, it's not necessarily good nor bad. I'm not passing judgment on whether or not you need proof. I just want to talk about it. It's just a conversation. So here we are, Judges 6, and we're going to start in verse 11. So verse 11 says, the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah. And you know, that's where Oprah got her name, but they left out the H. So Oprah is Oprah, and it's Oprah, even though some people insist on calling her Ophrah. And I can tell you, after having worked for her, her name is not Ophrah, but it did come from this biblical name in the Bible, and it just got misspelled. And the way it's spelled in the Bible is Oprah, but her name is not spelled that way. Her name is spelled Oprah. So just so you're clear, don't call her Ophrah, please. Please. All right. So, but in the Bible, it's Ophrah. So don't think I'm misspelling my former boss's name. Mispronouncing. I am not mispronouncing my former boss's name. I know how she says it. But in the Bible, he came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. And I learned something about the Midianites today, just studying for this. It's so interesting. So let me just tell you right quick. So Moses's father was a Midianite. It's just interesting because later the Israelites are under their rule and they're not being kind. But this is later than that. So anyway, when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Now, here's what Gideon said. And I'm not mad at him. I get it. Because sometimes when stuff doesn't go right, we doubt. Sometimes when stuff doesn't go right, there's my beautiful sister. Hello, my beautiful sister. I'll be back with you in just a moment. I want to make sure that I think it stays. It's on speaker view, so it should just stay on me. So, but good to see you, sweetie pie. We're reading from Judges chapter 6, and we're talking about Gideon and him needing proof. And so the Lord has said to him, the angel of the Lord has come to him and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." And Gideon says, "But sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our fathers told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hand of Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" "But Lord," again, I love, "but sir," "but Lord," Gideon asked, "how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites together." Gideon replied, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me." So I still need a sign. I know you said it, you said this, but give me a sign. So he says, "Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you." And the Lord said, "I will wait until you return." Gideon went in, he got his young goat, got some flour, made some bread without yeast, put the meat in a basket, its broth in a pot, comes out and offers them to him under the oak. Then the angel of the God said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth." Speaking of broth, can I just talk about broth for a moment? That's all I've had today because I'm on a clear diet because, my test tomorrow. So, I feel like in Willy Wonka, it's so funny when he said, "Cabbage water for dinner again. Oh, I'm so tired of cabbage water." That's been me all day. Here, broth, chicken broth. That's all I'm allowed to have. I'm just saying. So anyway, he said, "Pour the broth out." I poured my broth out, so I got tired of the broth. Okay, so Gideon did so. I digress. With the tip of the staff that was in his hand, the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Sovereign Lord, I've seen the angel of the Lord face to face," because they say if you see God face to face, you're going to die. So immediately, but the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid, you are not going to die." Okay, so we're going to stop at that point. So now Gideon knows without a doubt, he came face to face with the Lord. The Lord did this thing. He burned it up. The offering's gone. He knows it's the Lord. And he told him, "I'm going to give you the Midianites. I'm going to let you destroy them," because they've been doing evil in the eyes of the Lord. So that's how they ended up in that spot. So, but it had been years. For 7 years, he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. That's what it says at the beginning of 6. So then we're still in chapter 6. We'll go to verse 36. So chapter 6 of Judges, verse 36. So Gideon said to God, "If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said." So just one more proof. I know you burned up the thing, did the thing, then you disappeared and all of that. But I need one more thing. I need the dew to be only on the fleece and the ground to be dry. And that is what happened. Gideon rose early the next day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Should be done, right? Needing proof. So verse 39 says, then Gideon said to God, do not be angry with me. Let me just make one more request. Just one more. I want to double check it. Just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece. This time, make the fleece dry and the ground covered with dew. That night, God did so. Only the fleece was dry, all the ground was covered with dew. Okay. And, I've always loved that story because, first of all, it doesn't say God said anything. He wasn't like, oh my gosh, are you serious with it? He didn't do any of that. He was just like, okay, I need him to know it's me. I'm doing it. I'm going to give him whatever he needs to feel comfortable with this thing because he's clearly having an issue. And he did it. There have been times when I've been uncertain, and the word tells us to ask for clarity, for wisdom. There have been times when I am pretty sure that I hear God saying something to me, but I'm like, ooh, can you just give me a sign, like an unmistakable sign? I'm normally not the fleece and the dew person, but there are other things where I'll say, can you show me that it's your will by however you make it happen, by allowing this thing to happen or that thing to happen? And I will ask for proof. There are times. I try not to do it too much because I know God and I know his voice. And that's kind of the goal, is he wants us to know him and know his voice, which leads me to my first personal analogy. Years ago, there was this young lady who I mentored. She was a love. She was a sweetheart. And there was this guy that she was dating. And she called me and she said, Connie, I just don't know if he's the one. And I said, okay. And she starts telling me about him. And he wasn't a nice guy. He wasn't working. He was fresh out of jail. She was supporting him. He wasn't doing anything. And I said, do you think God, placed him? Do you think this is a God ordained thing? Do you feel like God put him in your life? I don't know. I just don't know. And I said, well, is he somebody I would have introduced you to? Oh, absolutely not. No, you've got way higher standards than that. You would have never done that. Really? Okay. So here's the thing. My standards are not as high as God's. And that means my voice better than God's voice. Miss Connie would not have introduced me to this joker. That. My voice well enough to know that would not have been. And yet, not sure though if God did. God might have done it though. Yeah, I don't think you should be, judging him a little less harsh. No, come on. So when I put it that way, I said, you really need to get to know God's voice because something is off here. So that's the first thing is, when it comes to knowing that we're hearing from God, we have to know what his voice sounds like. We have to know his character. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to understand. We're not smart enough to contain in our brains a holy God. If we could, I love this one pastor said, if I could contain all of who God is in my brain, he wouldn't be big enough to worship. If I could just figure him out in my own knowledge and brain, that's because I'm not the smartest person in the world. And even if I was, I'm still just a man. So that I've never forgotten that there are times when, I don't get it. And I'm like, but if I did, that would be a problem. I wouldn't be able to worship you because I'd be like, yeah, you ain't no different than old Joe down the street. So it's not that. So now we're going to look at another needing proof scenario. So here's another needing proof scenario. It's in Exodus. We're going to start in chapter 3, Exodus chapter 3 with Moses. And then we're going to go to Exodus chapter 4. But first, Exodus chapter 3. Now, here's the thing, and we're going to get into this. And I'm so glad my sister's on the phone on the call, because there's a piece in here that she has repeatedly told me. And it's really helpful because it goes both ways in terms of needing proof. But first, we're going to start with this story of Moses and the burning bush. Okay, so Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 15. So Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. That's what I was saying earlier, so deep that Jethro is a Midianite. And later you see that the Midianites completely just, took over the Israelites. So it's just interesting. Everything's connected, just saying. Anyway, and he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And tells them all about the land. So he says, so now, go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. In verse 11, but Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Now, God himself, he sees the bushes and burn up. He knows he's talking to God, can't even look at him. God gives him a directive, and he's like, but who am I? God said, I will be with you. I'm sure he said it just like that too, a period between every word. I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Moses said to God, here we go again, needing proof. Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. I love that line. I am who I am. I am is his name. I am. Not was, not will be. I am is who I am. I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Doggone, that's the name. I am. But God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord God, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation. Go and assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared to me and said all of these things. And he tells them, go. Look at chapter 4, verse 1. Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? I mean, I'm God, and I'm telling you what to do. So I clearly know what I'm doing. I know how this is going to turn out. It's me. Then the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. This, said the Lord, is so that they may believe the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you. Then the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was leprous, like snow. It's kind of gross. Yeah. Now, put it back into your cloak, he said. So when Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored, like the rest of his flesh. Then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first miraculous sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. Moses, you know what he said? He didn't say, okay, Lord, yes, Lord, I'll be a good and faithful servant. That's not what he said. Let me tell you what he said. Oh, Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. But Moses said, oh Lord, please send someone else to do it. It says, then the Lord's anger burned against Moses. He finally made him salty. It's like, doggone it, man. What is the problem with you? So he says, what about your brother, Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and his heart will be glad when he sees you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth and as if you were God to him. But take the staff in your hand so you can perform miraculous signs with it. Now, all of that had happened, right? I mean, he's just steadily telling them, here's what we're going to do. Here's how it's going to go. And I'm God. I just showed you, did some miracles for you. You needed proof. I gave you some proof. But then I happen to notice in Exodus 6:10, once he's gone already and talked to the Israelites, and, Pharaoh's heart was hard and he wasn't having it. If you look at Exodus 6:10 through 12, then the Lord said to Moses, go tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the Israelites go out of his country. But Moses said to the Lord, if the Israelites will not listen to me, why would Pharaoh listen to me, since I speak with faltering lips? And then again, in 28 verses 28 through 30. Now, when the Lord spoke to Moses in Egypt, he said to him, I am the Lord. Tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, everything I tell you. But Moses said to the Lord, since I speak with faltering lips, why would Pharaoh listen to me? Listen here, y'all. I understand needing proof. Sometimes we need proof. When you come down and you're talking to the Lord himself, you think you're going to give him a pass. So let me just talk about this for one quick second. And it goes both ways. Okay. You know that Maya Angelou quote of when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. It goes both ways. So my issue is not normally needing proof. It's that when they've given me proof the other direction, I still just keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, but maybe they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it. They're really nice. They really love me. They really like me. We're friends. And every time I'll call my sister and I'll say, I don't understand. My feelings are so hurt. I can't believe this happened. She's like, oh my God, Connie, we talked like this 3 weeks ago. It was the exact same thing. What are we doing? This is nothing new. They are showing you who they are. This has happened time and time again. Why are you tormenting yourself with, how could this happen? What did I do? What did I do wrong? And she has told me time and time again. So in terms of that needing proof, it needs to be both ways. Once you know who somebody is, you trust them. If they say, Gina and I were talking about a really good friend of ours, Spring. You guys know her. If you're friends with me on Facebook, and if you're friends with me in person, you know Spring. Spring is a woman of her word. She's just a woman of her word. If Spring said, Connie, I'm picking you up from the airport, and I landed and Spring wasn't there, I would know Spring's on her way. It would never occur to me, she's not coming. I knew it, she's not I would never doubt her. I would never. I know her character. I know her. Even if she got the time wrong, I still know she's coming. There are other people who will tell you all day long, I'm coming. I got you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do that thing. And they don't ever do it. And then every time I'm like, they didn't do it. I don't understand what happened. She's like, they never do it. What is wrong with you? And she's right. And I'm getting better. But trust should go both ways. Needing proof or not needing proof. When somebody shows you that they're good, trust that. When somebody shows you that they're bad, trust that. And so there was a guy, and I won't give names. I'll protect the guilty. There was a guy, he had arranged a meeting with some potential investor. And at the last minute, the guy had to cancel. And I don't know why. And he said, I knew I couldn't trust him. And I was like, you did? What did he do? How many times has he canceled on you? Never. I just met him. Wait, did you get a bad report about him, or did somebody tell you something? No, I just knew. What did you, Holy Spirit? I'm confused. How did you know you couldn't trust him? I just knew because he canceled the appointment. But he said he had an emergency and he wants to reschedule. I'm confused. So there are some people who will decide, I mean, just, judge, jury, and executioner on the spot with no proof. Just, I don't care what you've shown me about you. I'm going to decide that you're not trustworthy. Just, there's no amount of proof that you can give me to show me that you're trustworthy. And then there are people who there is no amount of proof that they can show you that you'll believe who they are, and they're not good. That, like I said, I fall into that other category. So people, I have a question for you. People you don't trust, do you have a good reason, or are you just hardwired not to trust? Just, we'll see. Are you the we'll see person? We'll see, even after they prove themselves time and time again. And those you do trust who have let you down or chosen poorly time and time again, do you ever decide this is who they are, and I can recognize this is who they are and take myself out of harm's way and still love them, but from afar? Which direction do you typically go? Do you just trust and trust and trust? Or even after they show you that they're a good person, we'll see. I know you've done all of those things. We've been friends for 30 years, but you might be trying to get over on me. Really? It's been 30 years. For real? I never have before, but okay. How much proof do you need? Because you look at Moses, he's there with God himself, and it's not good enough. Gideon is having God jump through fleece hoops on the dew. Where do you fall in that? Where do you fall in that? Do you, trust people who have shown you who they are? Either direction. Either direction. That's my question for you. What kind of proof do you really need? And then I'm going to bring my beautiful sister on screen and ask her and thank her also for all the times that she has helped me. I know she's rolling her eyes, but she has helped me so many times. Sister, what do you have to say?
Hey, sister.
Hi.
I think it's a blessing in a way that you see the good in people, even when they have not been good. It's funny and I think I can go in both directions depending on where my heart is, where someone is concerned. I can be the person who says, I know this about them, but it still surprises me every time. I think I know with my head, but I don't know with my heart. And then I just told my boss earlier this week, I'm hard on people who ask me to follow them.
Whoa.
And she laughs because I trust her and I know her hurt, and she's one of the best bosses I've ever had. She's not perfect, but she tries, and she loves her people, and she's good at her job. So, but in general, I default to, So, and I tell people all the time, I'm not swallowing it just because you're spooning it into my mouth. So I tend to fall more on that. But then there are people in my life who I see, but I love them. So, and I think you love people and you love hard. And so I completely understand. I just, I go into sister mode. I don't want my sister to get hurt. And it's so interesting when you were talking about recognizing someone's voice, recognizing God's voice, and how your friend knew your voice better than she knew God's voice. And it just reminded me of your baby, who didn't get to see me very often and didn't recognize my face when they saw me and tucked their little face right into your neck like, I don't think so. I don't. And then when I spoke, they turned around and reached their arms out to me. And so there's something about knowing someone's voice and recognizing and knowing, like Spring, who is so funny because not only is her heart distinctive, her character distinctive, and so true that if Spring said, Gina, you told me that you were going to give me a car, I would have to say, I don't remember that. However, if you said I told you I was going to give you a car, I owe you a car, Spring, because I know your heart. But her physical voice is also so distinctive.
It is.
Which, right. And she cracks me up because she'll say, Gina, this is Spring.
I know. And so she has to tell us every time. She says it. Hi, baby girl.
Okay, just wave. Hello. Okay. Okay, they saw you. They saw you. So, yeah, that distinctive voice or that distinctive character, I completely understand people who feel like it's not that I'm not trusting you, God. I'm going to screw this up. And I know you're God and you're not going to screw it up. But on the flip side, it's a distrust that you can mitigate my humanity, that you can mitigate my screw up. You know what I mean? There's that, oh, I don't know. I mean, I know you're God. You can't, I'm the most, you can't fix all of this.
Right.
You can't.
You know, you created me. The mouth, though.
The mouth, the confidence, do you know your people? Because your people aren't going to believe me. I mean, your people. So I completely understand the sense of what you're asking me to do is so far beyond me. And I love how Moses was like, okay. He turned the staff into a snake and then said, grab it by the tail. Moses was like, okay, reach.
Right.
But so there's a trust that God is God. But once you want me to take on and do my part,
right?
You're asking me to do something that feels so far beyond me,
right?
That the lack of confidence is entirely in me. And even knowing that you're you, I can't believe in me enough to believe in you.
Yes. You know, two things. One is that I just got a kind of funny thought over Moses. You know how they say public speaking is like the number one fear, even over death. So you see, I guess they got that back from Exodus. Moses was like, wait, what?
It is.
Like you said, I can pick up the staff that's a snake, right? I can pull my hand out and it's all leprosy. I'm good with that. I'm not even worried. Speak in front of some people. I got the mouth thing.
Right. This is a lot. I mean, it's less of a distrust of God and more a distrust of you're putting a lot of faith in me that I don't have.
And I get that, but it's God. I get it. So the other thing, I know, but here's the other story that I was reminded of. When I was working at neighborhood music school, one of the parents, who I really loved her kids, and I liked her too, but she sat down with me and she wanted to know my whole story of my career and how I'd gone from here to there and all of that. And at the end of it, she said, how did you know you could do all that though? And I said, why would I think I couldn't? And she said, but how did you know you could? And I said, why is that our default? That why would I think I could? Like, why would that be the default versus why would I think I couldn't? You think about kids where I'm going to jump off the roof and fly. And, they think they can do anything. And something beats it out of them, life or circumstances or whatever. And they stop believing that. But that part of me that said, I wish that wasn't our default.
But it isn't for everything. I mean, I think back to this weekend when I was working on building these boxes and I had Spring and an engineer on the line. And the engineer was somebody who is also a builder and a fixer and a DIYer like I am. But Spring said, would you buy a kit? I mean, or did you just envision this box in your head and make it? And I said, I just envisioned it and made it. To me, that's a kind of thing that somebody might say, how did you know you could?
You could. Mm-hmm.
And yet, I said, it's so interesting that for me, that's just a thing of why would I think I couldn't? There's something that I would say, why would I think I couldn't? But when we talked about those kind of things, both Spring and the engineer said, yeah, it's like spreadsheets. I mean, the spreadsheets are easy and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, I'm okay with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are challenging for a lot of people. And not quite up there with public speaking, but up there. But it's just interesting to me the things, we're all so different, and we all have those things that are like breathing for us that we just think, yeah, I mean, and even if I don't know how to do this specific thing, I mean, I know I can do the thing, and I
close enough to such and such. Yeah.
Yes, and for you, that thing has been risk taking in your career. You have, that has been like breathing for you. And for other people, you asked, I mean, I wouldn't even apply for that. I mean, I couldn't even, how did you, and for you, it's,
I can do the job.
You do the job. You get the job, and then you do the job, and then you excel at the job. And so that is, I understand her question. I totally understand her question. And I understand your feeling of why would I think I couldn't? And especially once after you've done a couple of things, like you said, it's close enough to this thing that I did when I was in college, and I just decided I was going to put on a production of, Thriller, and put on a production where, created something out of nothing and got a bunch of people who didn't know me and had never seen me before to come and do this thing of excellence. And just, it's just what you do.
Well, I guess this message for me spoke to, the personal side of, for me personally, of when somebody needs proof of my character after they've known me for a while, and when no amount of proof of somebody else's character makes me doubt them, even when it really hit home with that there are times when I'm like, I know, but I still believe in them. And it's like, oh, and they are just, shredding me from the inside out. And when I have somebody who'll doubt me and I'm thinking, wait, tell me what you looked at. Show me what factors came into you deciding that this is not who I am, or that thing is who I am. Like that part that's a deep, deep thing for me, and it's painful. And so, anyway, I've had a couple of conversations about that.
We're in a place nationally where there are people who, no matter how much proof they see, they will not believe, because they think a certain way about the person showing the proof, or about the person about whom the proof is being shown. There are people who think terrible things about their fellow countrymen.
With no proof, they've just made a decision. I know.
Or who elevate certain people who absolutely have shown themselves to be a terrible character.
Yeah, I know.
And there's nothing that you can say to people who believe that, nope, this is the best I've ever seen. This is the best thing that's ever happened to us as a country. This person understands me. This person, I love this person. And so to me, then there's that, much like Moses, it's internal. There's, you know what I mean? Or like, the fleece guy.
Right. Gideon.
Right. Gideon. Right. I mean, God said, okay, I'll do this. Okay, now I'll do this. Okay, now I love God sat around and waited for him to cook the meal and bake the bread. I was just sitting out there working it out. I was like, okay, come on back when you're ready. And yet, no amount of proof, you can't, that's a personal problem.
That is the moral of today. That is a personal problem. But it's true.
Trying to make sure that we see that discernment thing is huge. It's huge that we can see, that we can discern, you're God, you can fix me. Here's where I don't understand. Here's who I'm looking at and not being discerning. It's huge.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you for joining me for Bible Study Live, and I look forward to seeing you all next week on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful night and a great weekend. And if you, like I said, if you're a Facebook friend of mine, you can check my posts and you'll see what's going on. I'll see you guys. I'll post on Saturday and let you know how it went. That's all I'll say. Have a good night.